So as I mentioned, as a non-traditional student, I feel like I was already in the workplace before I went to school. So my transition was a little bit different. I had to transition to college from being in a work environment for so long. And that was probably my biggest challenge, to kind of put that hat on and go back. And no lie, being 40 years old in grad school wasn't that fun. but that's where the adaptability comes in and the passion to kind of continue that work. So that was the biggest challenge for me.
So I had the opportunity to start an internship with the city of San Jose while I was second year of my undergrad. But my internship ended when I stopped going to school, when I graduated. And at the time, the economy was pretty bad. I applied for like 60 jobs, and I think I got an interview with 2 companies. So, that was a major challenge, and what I tell all of you is get yourself out there. Try to get an internship, try to network as much as possible, see if you can know where you think you might want to work in the future. And, it takes work, but it's critical because I made a lot of connections and was able to start getting interviews, and then I got hired at the city, and kind of my network has grown exponentially. But that was a challenge. It just, kind of forcing myself to get out there really was the thing. And don't be afraid to apply for jobs, even if you don't think you're qualified or whatever. The market is such that it's difficult to hire people right now. So we're constantly looking for new grads, even people that are still in school, because we're having, maybe it's a city of San Jose problem, we're posting jobs that no one's applying to. We have over 1,000 openings. And so what I tell everyone is like, you don't know unless you apply. Even if the answer is no, at least you go through the process. And that's, I guess, how to get over the challenge. But.
You see?
Yeah, so this is a hard question, unfortunately, because I got very lucky out of college. I had an internship with Street Code, the company I worked for, my last year. It's the summer of my last year. So summer 2019, I had an internship where I was teaching web design. And the CEO loved the work I was doing and actually hired me on during my last year as his executive assistant. So I stayed on for the full year, and then when COVID hit in March, I still stayed on. They let me work from home as well. And then in May, my graduation month, they extended a full-time offer to work with them as their system administrator. So I got very lucky working with them. It was right when COVID was starting. We were working from home, and they needed someone that could do IT because we were teaching classes in person. We had to switch over to Zoom, just like everyone else. So I got lucky there. I think the only challenge I had was how much responsibility that falls on you once you go from an intern to full-time. I went from just intern as an executive assistant over to now managing all of the IT for an organization. So being the only person responsible for the IT there was a very big shift for myself.
I think the hardest thing for me is I graduated undergrad having had no internships, no job prospects. I had a bachelor's degree in psychology. I was living at my parents' house and getting more depressed by the day living with my parents. And so I was desperately job seeking. I was kind of willing to take any job that would have me at that point. And so the first thing that came along that said yes was, do you want to work a graveyard shift at a psychiatric hospital? I can't guarantee your safety. I was like, sure, sign me up, whatever. And to Jesus' point, I had no idea about how to protect my own boundaries or how to not burn myself out, and I cared way too much, way too early on. So I did this really tough job that was very mentally, physically, it was very tough. But I was able to move out of my parents' house, that was nice. And I saw this path of I don't know, I think I have to go back to school and do a master's degree and maybe reassess, because I wasn't seeing a good way to advance beyond this. I was making pretty much no money. And so I think I chose to go back to school and do a 2-year master's degree program. And that's when all sorts of doors started opening up. As soon as you put that graduate thing in front of your name, suddenly internships appear and a lot more job opportunities and career opportunities opened up. But I think definitely I had that take the first crappy job that comes along thing. which if you gotta do what you gotta do, maybe you do it, but if you can like avoid that desperate move of like signing up for something you know is gonna be terrible, like, I wouldn't recommend doing that.
Thank you. I don't know how to follow that, but I think that's awesome. Okay, Austin, thanks.
So I have I thought of maybe two challenges, two major challenges that I had and also have present tense, transitioning, because I've only been maybe 2 years out of university. So the disclaimer is that I'm going to propose a challenge, but there is no solution that I have thought of yet, but I'm still thinking through it. The first challenge that I thought of was when you transition from university to the workplace. In university, you have a very structured goal setting, right? Like every quarter, semester for San Jose State, you have your grades, you have a curriculum, you have a syllabus. It's all very structured. I think what can be really challenging for students upon graduation is realizing that from now on, unless you go back to graduate school, it's going to be unstructured in the sense that you have to define your own success. And so that's kind of like a introspective exercise, but you have to be very self-aware about what your goals are, where you're at, what are your strengths and your weaknesses, and that's, to the other panelist's point about being self-aware and trying not to exercising self-care and making sure you're not burning out. I think that is a challenge, that challenge of, because in university you can kind of set boundaries and you have the structure that's also given to you, but at work you really don't have much of a structure, In some companies it might be quarterly reviews, things like that, but aside from that, your career and the rest of your life is really just a wide ocean, so you kind of have to be good at defining those goals and kind of tackling it. I think the other big challenge that I noticed transitioning from university to the workplace is imposter syndrome. In university, you're similar age group. Your demographic and all your peers are all the same age as you or around the same age as you. But as soon as you enter the workforce, just statistically speaking, you're going to be the youngest, most likely, because most of the workforce is average age 40s and above. And so you're almost always going to be the youngest person in your cohort entering the workforce. And I think that that's kind of intimidating. I personally am still dealing with that, so I don't know how to deal with it. But I can say that it's normal, so if that's of any comfort, I would say that it's normal, and more likely than not, you will always face imposter syndrome, and everyone faces imposter syndrome entering the workforce. So I think that's another big challenge.